Perry Como is remembered by everyone as the sweetest person on TV. Then, in 1957, something happened in 14 seconds that no one saw coming that confirmed it. The truth is, though, that the narrative is darker. He said his hit songs were bad. He turned down accolades for selling millions of records. People were astonished by his road fury. While he was dying, his kids argued over his estate in court. And what about that renowned pool scene? It wasn't simply about being polite. It was about having power. Something Como didn't have much of in his own life. Perry Como was born on May 18, 1912, in a little village called Canonsburg, only 20 miles southwest of Pittsburgh. His parents had only moved from Italy 2 years before, in 1910. Perry was the seventh of 13 kids, and his dad worked long hours at a plant that made tin plates. He made only approximately $175 a month, which was not enough to feed such a large family. At home, they solely spoke Italian. Perry had to learn English from scratch when he started school at age 6. They were poor, but music and faith were always important to them. In 1922, when Perry was 10 years old, he received his first job at Steve Fragpane's barbershop. He made only 50 cents a week. He opened the store before school and cleaned the floors after school. He had to get up early to fire the wood heater, then rush to school, then come back to polish mirrors and tidy up. He was so short that he had to stand on a wooden box to cut hair. By 1925, when he was 13, he had his own chair in the shop and was already cutting hair like a pro. His family really needed the money. He loved music even before that. When he was just 3 years old, he was already trying to play songs on an old organ that his dad had bought for barely $3, even though they had to buy food on credit. They found a way to make room for that organ. Perry would spend hours playing it by ear. His dad, who sang when he had time off, wanted all of his kids to learn music. And Perry was the most serious about it. He learned to play the guitar, trombone, and other instruments on his own, without any formal voice instruction. But it wasn't always easy. Perry lost a whole week's pay in a dice game when he was a teenager. The money was vital. Felt terrible. He was too embarrassed to see his parents, so he shut himself in his room. He readied himself for rage when he finally told his father. But Perry's dad said something that stuck with him. "It's okay to make a mistake. Just don't do worse than this." Perry learned how to forgive in that moment, and it changed him for the rest of his life. Perry was still a barber when he joined the Canonsburg Italian band as a trombone player. He played at parades, weddings, and church functions. Stan Vinton led the band. His son Bobby Vinton would later become a well-known vocalist. People called Perry the singing barber because he would sing while cutting hair, especially love ballads. Grooms would ask him to sing while they got ready for their nuptials. His tips would go up by $20. Or $30 for certain shows. Perry had his own barbershop by the time he was 14 in 1926 and was making $125 a week, which is more than $2,000 a week now. A Greek cafe owner in the area had offered him a place to work. Perry's barbershop was constantly busy because he sang. He hired 2 extra barbers to help with the multitude. After then, something bad happened. He couldn't work anymore because his father Pietro's heart got worse. Perry and his brothers started making money. He utilized the money he made as a barber to pay for his siblings' rent, food, and even music tuition. Perry never stopped singing, even though he had so much to do. He sung while he worked because he liked Bing Crosby. People liked the way he sang. Groups in the area, such Sons of Italy, began to ask him to play. They gave him $5,000 or $10 every event, which was a lot of money for a kid back then. He met Roselle Beline in 1929 when he was 17 and she was 16. He sang More Than You Know while staring at her the whole time. They fell in love, but Perry didn't want to be married right away. He waited 4 years because he wanted to be sure his firm could support a family. On July 31, 1933, they finally tied the knot. They were 21 and 20 years old when they got married, and they stayed married for 65 years. But shortly after the wedding, they had to make a big choice. Freddie Carlone, a bandleader, heard him perform when he was on vacation in Cleveland and offered him a job. He used to make $125 a week, but now he barely makes $28 a week. Perry said no. He thought it was dumb to give up his business for something dangerous. Carlone called again, but he still replied no. But Roselle and his friends continued telling him to think about it again. Finally, Carlone said he would give the work to someone else if they didn't hurry. Roselle claimed she'd be sad forever if he didn't take it. That made Perry close his barbershop in August 1933. He became a member of the band. He remarked subsequently that he was less than 24 hours away from saying no to it forever. But the start was hard. Perry and Roselle could barely make it on $28 a week. At first, she couldn't even go with him. His father warned him, "You'll never know if you don't try." That made Perry stronger. In 1936, he got hit again, and it hurt. An executive from Decca Records came in while they were recording and told me to get rid of the youngster. He thought Perry sounded too much like Bing Crosby, who was already signed with Decca. Perry claimed it felt like a knife in the chest. Ted Weems, the bandleader, said no, though. He indicated there would be no recording at all if Perry didn't sing. That commitment preserved Perry's job, but the Crosby copy label stayed with him for years. Perry later said it was true. He was imitating him. Then, in 1936 and 1937, WGN Radio almost stopped airing the band's shows. They said Perry's singing wasn't clear and people couldn't understand the words. Ted Weems played back tapes, and Perry knew it was true. That moment broke his heart. Weems encouraged him to stop employing techniques and just sing from the heart, nevertheless. That counsel made a big difference. Perry started to create the smooth, natural voice that would become his trademark. But touring was quite hard on them. Perry did something in 1940 that almost lost him everything. He left the show in the middle of it to be with his wife, who was having a baby. The band was really angry. It almost cost him his job. Still, Perry didn't feel bad about it. Family was the most important thing. Always. He was tired of traveling all the time by 1942. When World War II started, Weems joined the army, and the orchestra broke up. Perry was so fatigued that he chose to travel back to Canonsburg. He even began talking about getting a new lease for a barbershop. He told Roselle that he was ready to give up music, but she wouldn't let him. She urged him to keep going. He claimed later that if it weren't for her, he'd have the best barbershop in town. But something that wasn't expected happened. The General Artists Corporation got in touch with a new proposition. They wanted him to record for RCA Victor and host his own radio show for $100 a week. He presented his debut solo show on CBS on March 12, 1943. RCA needed someone who could compete with Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra. And they wanted Perry to be that voice. He recorded his first solo song, Goodbye Sue, just 3 days after signing. But it didn't work. The musicians' strike from 1942 to 1944 meant that there was no music to back him up. People just didn't connect with it because it was only vocals. He was feeling down. He almost stopped cutting hair for good because it got so awful. But everything changed in 1945. He recorded a song called Till the End of Time on July 3, 1945. It was based on a work by Chopin. The record came issued on July 30 and was on the Billboard charts by August 9. It didn't simply fare well, it lingered on the charts for 17 weeks, and for 10 of those weeks, it was number one. It was his first number one hit and the first song of his to sell more than 1 million copies. It sold more than 2 million, nevertheless. Another song of his, If I Loved You, was also selling more than 1 million copies at the same time. That made him the first pop performer ever to have 2 songs that sold more than 2 million copies at the same time. A lot of people thought that the mood in America when President Roosevelt died in April had something to do with how well Till the End of Time did. People were yearning for comfort, and Perry's voice offered it to them. He got job offers from Hollywood, and MGM signed him to a 7-year movie deal. In 1944, he was in the movie Something for the Boys, and in 1945, he was in Dollface. But he didn't like living in Hollywood. At a birthday party for the influential studio head Louis B. Mayer, Perry was told to sing Happy Birthday in front of everyone. He felt like a monkey that had been trained. After the song, he stared the mayor in the eye and called him a SOB in front of everyone. That was the end of his deal. Perry then confessed he had planned the whole event. He didn't like the way things worked in Hollywood and wanted to leave. He claimed that leaving the movies was like getting away. He never looked back. He wasn't always joyful, even while he was listening to music. People started to know that Perry hated the songs he was told to record. He once claimed that some of them were bad. People remarked he appeared uncomfortable during recording sessions, like he had just eaten something nasty. He would record once or twice and then go. He didn't want to sing foolish jingles, he wanted to sing Broadway songs and oldies. He put out an album in 1961 called By Request that had songs he really liked. But it didn't do well in sales. At the same time, RCA Victor maintained selling millions of his other records. They sold an average of 4 million Como recordings a year starting in 1943. They made 4 million in just 1 week in 1946. He claimed in a 1998 interview that those tunes paid for his house and sent his kids to college, so he can't complain too much. But if I could have done it my way, I would have sung the Great American Songbook for the rest of my life. Instead of singing about hot diggity dogs. He moved to radio and made it his home. He started hosting a 15-minute show called the Chesterfield Supper Club every weeknight at 7 p.m. on December 11, 1944. A guy named Doug Storer got the idea after hearing Perry on the radio and making a demo with him. At first, even the ad agency didn't want Perry. They wanted a different person. But Doug pushed for him and got him the position only a week before the episode aired. NBC made a decision on December 24, 1948, to do something different. They brought cameras inside the radio studio and showed the show on TV. It was supposed to be a short test run for 3 Fridays, but it was so successful that they kept going. The show became a regular TV show on September 8, 1949. Even though Perry stated he felt weird on camera at first, he was now a TV star. He would picture himself talking to family in his living room to calm down. He went to CBS in 1950 and changed the name of the show to The Perry Como Show. At first, it was on 3 times a week for 15 minutes, but subsequently it became a full hour. His show was the sole NBC show in the Nielsen Top 10 by the 1956 to 1957 season. From 1955 to 1959, he won 5 Emmy Awards in a row. In 1956, he also won a Christopher Award. The presentation was one of the first to be shown in color. Perry and Jackie Gleason fought over ratings in a pleasant way. The winner would phone the loser every week to make fun of them. When his song Catch a Falling Star became the first to obtain a gold record from the RIAA on March 14, 1958, it created history. A gold record means that the song sold over 1 million copies. But Perry didn't even enjoy the song. The announcer got the name wrong during the live awards ceremony and called it Chase a Falling Star. Perry then sang the song in a strange way to indicate how much he didn't like it. He never altered his mind, even though he won a Grammy for it later that year. He wanted to cut hair again. Not a famous person. He remarked once that being a star wasn't what he wanted. It was just something that happened. Then, in 1955, NBC gave him a big deal. It was a deal for 12 years. In 1959, Kraft Foods made an even greater offer. They paid him $25 million to develop color TV shows that lasted 66 hours over the course of 2 years. He also secured a 10-year deal to be their spokesperson. He got the most money for being on TV. He owned a production firm called Roncom, which was named after his son Ronnie. He had to pay all of the manufacturing costs out of that $25 million, but he got to keep the rest. Perry often remarked he felt stuck, even though he had a lot of money. He told Time magazine, "Honestly, I don't know anything about the deal. But I met the president of Kraft, and he seemed like a really kind man." His shows weren't only for the U.S. More than a dozen nations showed them on TV. In 1956, he won a Peabody Award with Jackie Gleason. The judges stated Perry was charming and never acted false. He was usually nice and good with kids. He would turn down scripts that he thought were too adult for kids. People all throughout the world enjoyed his Christmas programs. He was honored by the Kennedy Center in 1987. He was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame in 1990. In 1958, the B-side of Catch a Falling Star, a song called Magic Moments, became a great hit in the UK. For 8 weeks, it was number 1. In the US, it only got to number 4, but that was still a significant deal. It seemed odd that one song was a smash in the US and the other was a hit in the UK. He didn't want most of his singles to be certified as gold, even though he had more than 10 records that each sold over 1 million copies. RCA sold 4 million of his recordings in 1 week, but Perry didn't say anything about it. He didn't care about being famous. On March 16, 1957, Olympic swimmer Esther Williams was swimming in a pool that had been created just for her show. While she was swimming, her clothes became messed up. Perry didn't freak out. At the end of the performance, he strolled up to the camera, said, "Good night, folks," and dived into the pool completely clothed. People will always remember it as one of the best moments on TV. For years, people talked about it. Perry stopped doing his weekly show in 1963. It was a major step. He had made $25 million from Kraft just a few years before, but now he wanted to spend time with his family. After then, he did specials every month, but sometimes he missed months. He wanted to watch his kids grow up. He recorded his Christmas special in Jerusalem in 1980 and sung Ave Maria outside a real church. He wouldn't sing that song someplace that didn't feel holy. He thought that some songs were too holy to be sung solely to get ratings. He put out It's Impossible in 1970. It became a worldwide hit. It was his first top 10 single in years, and it showed that he could still make music that was up to date. He wrote an album on it and even sang songs by the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel. He went back to Las Vegas the same year. He hadn't played live since 1944. He earned $125,000 a week at the International Hotel. His dad never made that much money in his whole life. He made a live album and brought his own kind of pure fun to the stage in Las Vegas. In the 1980s, he said no to major deals so he could stay home. He explained that celebrity had kept him away from his kids throughout the most vital years of their lives, and he wasn't going to let that happen again. He could say no now. His prior $25 million agreement had made him one of the richest people in show business. Instead of going after additional prizes, he chose to be a good husband and father. President Ronald Reagan presented him the Kennedy Center Award in 1987. It was the best award a performer could get. Perry put on his cardigan, smiled his meek smile, and took it with grace. His technique of hosting TV shows revolutionized the way they were done for good. He didn't scream. He didn't show off. People adored him for that very reason. Perry Como was only 21 years old when he married Roselle Bolin on July 31, 1933. She was just 19. They first met in 1929 during a picnic by Chartier's Creek. Perry sang More Than You Know while looking right at her the whole time. It wasn't just a passing crush. Roselle died on August 12, 1998, at the age of 84. Their love endured for 65 years. Ronnie, their first child, was born in 1940. They couldn't have any more kids after that, so they adopted their daughter Terry and son David. Como often stated he felt guilty, even though his marriage was one of the most solid in show business. He remarked that becoming renowned made him miss genuine life. He previously said that traveling a lot wasn't beneficial for kids. He quit after taking Roselle and baby Ronnie on early tours. He got money by becoming famous, but it took away his time. Perry was heartbroken when Roselle died. People thought Perry was the most serene person on TV. But it wasn't always the case off screen. Mitchell Ayers, Perry's music director from 1948 to 1963, remarked that Perry could become angry just like anyone else. It wasn't just once in a while. People who drove next to him knew he would yell at them if they cut him off. Fans were astonished by that kind of road anger because they thought he was always calm. The truth is that Perry got mad like everyone else. He just did a better job of hiding it. Perry never lost where he came from, even as his reputation expanded. He was the seventh of 12 children born to Italian immigrants in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. For decades, he silently supported his family. He sent money without expecting a thank you. In 1952, he and Roselle were made Knight and Lady Commanders of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre, a rare award for Catholics. They went to see Pope Pius XIII in Rome in 1958 to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary. Perry didn't appreciate how the Vatican covered the event in the news. He wanted faith to be a way of life, not something you exhibit. His generous nature never made the news, but it changed the lives of people he didn't even know he was helping. Even though he made almost $40 million, Perry chose to live a relatively basic life in Jupiter Inlet Beach Colony, Florida. He got 3 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, won 5 Emmys, and sold more than 50 million recordings. But he didn't want to appear ostentatious. People in the area often saw him shopping for groceries like any other retiree, and most of them didn't even know who he was. He passed away on May 12, 2001, at the age of 88, while seated in his beloved recliner. Terry, his daughter, reported that the day before, they had shared ice cream and he had been happy. That made it considerably harder to deal with his untimely demise. Perry had been fighting Alzheimer's illness for about 2 years. When he gave up golf, it felt like part of him had already died. He never stopped working, even as he got older. There were reports in the 1970s that he had retired, but Perry still played sometimes. He said he still liked it in 1992, when he was 80. He claimed he wouldn't do it if he was weary. In 1987, he was given the Kennedy Center Award. He was inducted into the TV Hall of Fame in 1990. He died in 2001, and the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award came out the next year. He worked with RCA Victor for 44 years, from 1943 to 1987, which is one of the longest associations in music history. But Perry was secretly angry about something. He didn't like a lot of his most famous tunes. He once alleged that RCA made him record tracks that he thought were bad. He said that his arrangement with Kraft for $25 million in 1959 was like a golden prison. He informed his friends that he would have preferred gone back to cutting hair in Canonsburg. He mentioned in one interview that those tunes paid for his house and his child's college. I would have liked to sing the Great American Songbook instead. He wanted to do art. The business made him rich, but it didn't make him happy. He even messed up his own career in Hollywood. MGM threw a party for studio head Louis B. Mayer in 1948 while they were working on the movie Words and Music. Perry had to sing Happy Birthday on stage. He modified the words to Happy Birthday to You. You enormous, bloated piece of shit. The mayor was very angry and told him he could never have another movie role. Didn't care. He remarked later that they were wasting my time and I was wasting theirs. Perry didn't want to seek gold records, even though he was doing well. He didn't want to be praised for selling millions of records. RCA had to urge him to receive the first official gold record award from the RIAA for the song Catch a Falling Star in 1958. He sold more than 100 million records. More than 1 million copies of at least 15 of his songs were sold. He didn't want trophies or awards, though. He just wanted to go home after recording and not be bothered. Some others even said he was avoiding the draft during World War II. But military records revealed that he was 4AF because he had family responsibilities.